The Trident's waters still frothed red beneath the lowering sky when Prince RHAEGAR Targaryen reined in his stallion at the riverbank and felt, for the first time in many moons, the silence of victory. The clash of steel had faded to groans and whispers. Broken banners sagged in the shallows like slain beasts, their sigils half submerged. Stag antlers snapped. The crowned lion collapsed upon itself, the falcon's white wings smeared and sought. Rhaegar's own standard, the three-headed dragon wrought in black silk and rubies, hung untouched above him, and the prince wondered, with a curious, distant calm, whether it had been the music of the battle or the music in his mind that had carried him through the storm. A ragged breath escaped his lips. Across the churned mud and trampled reeds, the last of Robert Baratheon's vanguard lay strewn where they had fallen. Lordlings in dented plate, farmers in boiled leather, squire boys who had believed that following their laughing giant of a lord meant immortality. Robert's great war hammer, lumps of antler still wedged in the iron, remained buried in the chest of a Riverlander knight who had leapt between the prince and his doom. The breaking blow had never found Rhaegar's breast. Instead, it had lodged thunderous in flesh not meant to bear its weight. He dismounted in silence. Around him, his Kingsguard closed a loose circle. Sir Arthur Dane with dawn's pale edge painted scarlet. Sir Oswell went breathing through clenched teeth. Sir Barristan Selmy, grim as winter, shaking gore from his gauntlets. They waited for orders. Yet, the prince found himself rooted, listening to the river's murmur as though it were a harp string, and somewhere, beneath its liquid voice, the answer to a question only he could hear. Robert's body had not been found, swept downstream perhaps, or dragged ashore by loyal hands to die beneath an oak. But Stannis Baratheon's bannermen were already breaking, deserting northward toward the neck. Jon Arryn's falcon banners had dipped and fled toward the moonlit hills. Only the remnants of Stark men fought on in knots beside the ford, their grey direwolf snarling defiance, though their lord's heir, young Eddard, bled in the mire with a spear through his thigh. At last Rhaegar spoke, and his voice seemed older than the twilight. Enough. One word, and the ripple of obedience spread. Horns blared for quarter. The battlefield sighed. Some men wept, others sank to their knees in disbelief. He turned to Dane. Gather what healers remain. Tend the wounded Stark first. I would not have Winterfell remember me a butcher. Dane nodded wordlessly. The river breeze teased Rhaegar's hair, silver gold strands clinging to the dried blood on his cheek. He wiped them away as if brushing crumbs from a feast he had scarcely tasted. A raven, black as obsidian, landed upon a broken spear and regarded him with a single baleful eye. Rhaegar almost greeted it, for in that moment, alone amid victory, he felt kin to the creature, bound by wings unseen, herald to tidings yet unknown. Night settled over the royal pavilion like velvet trimmed in ash. Torches sputtered along guy ropes. Shadows writhed against canvas walls. Lords jostled for entrance, demanding audience, seeking pardon, pledging renewed fealty. Rhaegar granted none entry. Instead, he sat at a narrow writing table, quill poised above parchment, and penned missives that would ride on fast horses to King's Landing, Harrenhal, Old Town. Words of peace, though his hand shook with the memory of war. Behind him, Sir Barristan stood sentinel. "Your Grace," he said at last, a cautious address that acknowledged both triumph and the uncertain crown that now hovered above the prince's brow. Rhaegar set quill aside. "Say it plainly, Selmy. The realm will look to you tonight. The king is not the man he was." Barristan's honor tightened each syllable, and the small folk will need a name to cheer, lest chaos bloom from this blood. Eris, father, Dot. The word tasted of wildfire and screams. Rhaegar saw in the lamp glow the narrow staircase of the Red Keep aflame, the charred bones of Lord Rickard Stark, the echo of Brandon Stark's strangled howls. Madness wore his father's crown now, as a mask wears the face beneath. Dawn is hours away, Rhaegar said. By sunrise the river will carry news faster than any raven. If I claim a throne tonight, it must be for the realm, not for vengeance. And for the queen you have stolen from Winter, Barristan murmured, gentler than a lullaby. Lyanna T. Her name wove warmth through his marrow even now, though she waited leagues away in the silent tower at the northern edge of Dorne. He pictured her raven hair unbound, her fierce gray eyes that cracked his composure more surely than Robert's hammer could, watching desert stars ripple in the pool below her window. She had spoken once of crowns. My flowers are snow, she had teased, and I would sooner weave petals from ice than sit queen. Yet there had been yearning behind the jest, a yearning to belong somewhere beyond the tomb cold honor expected of her. He opened his palm. Within lay the winter rose crown he had fashioned from beaten silver and milky gemstones, petals thin as breath. I would crown her under an open sky, he whispered, where even ghosts may witness. Barristan bowed. Then let us ride swift, my prince. The sooner her brow bears that promise, the sooner the realm may see hope in place of fear. They rode at moonrise, a wedge of white cloaks escorting the dragon banner southward along the King's Road. No songs accompanied them, only hoofbeats drumming like a dirge for all the dreams trampled beneath their passage. Yet, as leagues unspooled, the air changed. Summer's hush gave way to desert wind, spiced with Dunag sage and distant rain. At the Tower of Joy, dawn came crimson. Highest turret caught first light as though dipped in molten gold. Lyanna Stark stood upon its battlement, wrapped in a mantle of dusk wolf gray, the fabric dancing about her like mist above cold water. When Rhaegar's stallion topped the final ridge and halted amid pale, sword-shaped stones, she descended the spiral stair alone, silent, fearless. No court of silver-clad ladies awaited her, no septon with crystal censer. The King's Guard formed a ring. Dane went, the Wild Hightower, the others, blades upraised in salute. The rising sun turned dawn's blade to living fire. Rhaegar dismounted, the winter rose crown cradled to his breast. He felt the hush of the world gather around them, as if every tree and rock had drawn a breath and would not exhale until this moment passed. Lyanna's hair caught the wind. Black strands lashed her cheeks, yet could not mask her smile. Wolfish, wary, wonderfully alive. You won then, she said, voice hoarse from desert air. I did, he answered. The words felt both triumph and apology. Will there be songs? He reached for her hand, cold and strong. Only if you sing them. With that he bent the knee, prince, warrior, dreamer undone, and lifted the fragile crown to her brow. Gemstone petals met dark hair. The morning light fractured across silver leaves. Rise, my queen, murmured Sir Arthur Dane, though protocol named no titles, though realm and history had yet to bend. In his voice Lyanna heard reverence unmarred by pity, and she straightened, breath a frost puff in the warming air. The prince kissed her fingers. Lyanna Targaryen, first of her name, he vowed, binding words to wind, queen of love and winter, lady of Dragonstone, heart of the dragon prince. Let the stars record this, for the world is too frail a ledger. Mewar. Tears filled her eyes, anger, joy, raw terror, but she let them fall. Behind lids shuttered against sunbright glare, she saw Winterfell's snows, Benjen's grin, Ned's quiet sorrow, her father's grave dignity. The direwolf's howl echoed miles away, but she felt its cadence in her bones. Then we had best make a realm worth such a title, she said, and turned to face the king's guard as though reviewing her own honor guard. Even Dane, ever composed, blinked at the steel in her gaze. The journey northward took weeks, for RHAEGAR would not risk the child quickening in Lyanna's womb to the rough jostle of war-worn roads. They traveled in a curtained palanquin hung with Targaryen black and stark gray, a dragon's wings drawn round a wolf's head, escorted by knights sworn and sellswords newly bought with ruby promises. Rebellion's embers smoldered in every village they passed, yet when small folk glimpsed the slender woman within, pale but unafraid, many knelt upon half-frozen fields. Some whispered of prophecy, a wolf to chase away the darkness, a dragon to sing the sun's song, but not all bowed. At the mouth of the Blackwater Rush, they found heads spiked upon palisades, loyalist riders taken by remnants of the Stormland's host. In the foothills of the Crownlands, a weirwood burned, red sap hissing like blood. Lyanna watched white bark blacken and flake, lips pressed thin, and RHAEGAR ordered every torch doused lest the conflagration spread to the wind-dried scrub surrounding. He spent that night beneath the weeping sky composing verses on loss. They blistered his heart, and he consigned them to the campfire before dawn. King's Landing rose at last, a sullen bloom of brick and smoke, its gates bristling with uneasy men hotgarms, who bore dragon banners yet eyed their prince as one might eye the sea before a hurricane's arrival. Word of Aerys' latest decrees had seeped beyond the walls. Mass arrests, whispered pyres beneath the Red Keep, the Alchemists' Guild summoned at all hours. Ravens muttered that Grand Maester Pycelle was seldom seen, that Queen Rhaella wept in Maegor's holdfast, that the streets stank of fear thicker than Tanner's urine. RHAEGAR ordered the city encircled but not assaulted. He would not place Lyanna within those walls until certain wildfire no longer slept beneath every cobble. Instead, he called parley at the gate of the gods. There Lord Varys emerged, powdered and perfumed, flanked by crimson-cloaked Lannister guards, newly sworn. His smile glimmered like polished bone. "Most radiant prince," the eunuch intoned. "The king your father bids you swift and joyous entry. The capital starves for the light of your return." RHAEGAR touched the pommel of his sword. "The capital starves because its bakeries burn while alchemists boil wildfire in their stead. I would see proof his grace is of sound counsel. The promises of spiders weave too thin." Varys' smile widened, as though invited to a game he adored. "Then perhaps, dear prince, we might arrange an inspection." 3 days passed before the drawbridge lowered. When it did, RHAEGAR rode at the head of 200 picked knights, Dane and Selmy, at either flank. Lyanna remained outside, encamped upon Visenya's hill, guarded by silent sisters of House Dane, who bore dawn-colored sashes and eyes as black as the nightfall blade some said they secretly wielded. Within the Red Keep, madness unfurled like poisoned ivy. Kingsguard corpses lay beneath vaulted stairwells, men RHAEGAR had once broken bread with. "Traitors!" the royal pyromancers hissed, though their lips were cracked by fumes. In the throne room, Aerys sat hunched upon the iron throne, nails torn, beard matted, eyes rimmed red by sleepless terror. At his feet crouched a gaunt boy clutching a flagon of wildfire, green liquid sloshing near Aerys' bare ankles. RHAEGAR knelt but did not lower his gaze. "Father," he said, voice low as thunder withheld. "The war is ended. I have returned with peace." "Peace?" Aerys giggled, a sound like glass shattering. "There is no peace, only ashes. Burn them all. Burn every last one who would name my son king." "No, did you?" I name you king," RHAEGAR answered, "so long as you remain worthy." The smile died. Steel scraped behind the throne. Sir Jaime Lannister, white cloak stained at the hem, had taken a single step forward. His sword remained sheathed, yet his green eyes flicked from father to son like a tethered hawk scenting release. Rhaegar rose. Your grace, the armies of the realm await a word. Give it, proclaim clemency. Order the pyromancers to their guild hall, and I will kneel beside you till age claims us both. Refuse, and you will find the realm already chosen. Then, it is... Silence pooled. A heartbeat stretched upon a rack. Then Eris licked cracked lips, taste of blood and copper and fear, and snarled. You are no son of mine, half-dragon whelp of prophecy and horrors. Spit flew. I will see your lover's womb ripped, the child drowned in wildfire. Jaime's hand closed on hilt. Barristan's gauntlet rose in warning. Rhaegar felt the river again, its hush, its inexorable tide. Crown and kingdom balanced upon a single breath. He drew none. Jaime moved. The sword hissed free. Daylight flashed upon steel. 2 heartbeats later, the Mad King lay in segments at the throne's base, blood steaming upon cold iron. Jaime's white cloak settled like snow. Barristan cried out. Rage, shock, grief merging, but Rhaegar lifted a hand. Sir Jaime, he said, for this you will bear a name the singers will curse. Yet know now, you have saved a realm. Jaime bowed, tears bright upon his lashes, and no more was spoken. Rhaegar's coronation took place in the dragon pit, beneath open vault and shattered ribs of stone. No scepter remained wide enough to house the lords who flocked to swear fealty. The great sept of Baelor lay barred until the faith declared whether a wolf queen might enter. So beneath the bleached skulls of ancient dragons, Rhaegar knelt and let Sir Barristan place Aegon, the conqueror's circlet upon his brow. The crowd roared, a sound half exultation, half uncertain dread. Lyanna watched from a gallery above, hidden by a veil of pale netting. She felt the next turn of the world, the hush before the note resolves, and wondered if the song Rhaegar had chased all his life had at last found its chorus. That night, in solar chambers overlooking Blackwater Bay, he found her in candlelight, one hand spread across the gentle swell of her belly. Ships moved in the harbor like slow shadows. Bells rang distantly for those fallen at the Trident. Will they ever love me? She asked without turning. Some already do. The rest will follow. She smiled at that, an expression of brave disbelief, and reached for him. They stood together, silent as moonlight draped the chamber, and dreamt of children who might bear both snow and fire in their blood and never know the taste of war. Yet beyond the Red Keep's walls, ghosts gathered. In the dungeons, Varys whispered through bars to remnants of Robert's host. In the septs, septons preached of abduction and broken betrothals. In the north, Lord Rickard's widow sewed black banners in silence, while ravens flew to Winterfell with tidings of her lone daughter, wed to the dragon's heir. Ned Stark, limping but unbowed, rode toward the capital with 200 spears and a heart knotted by grief. And in a smoky hall upon the rock, Lord Tywin Lannister weighed the parchment message from his new king. It spoke of pardons and alliances, of a realm healed by marriage unthinkable months before. Tywin's pale eyes narrowed. His daughter Cersei paced like a caged lioness, golden hair a banner of fury. Her dreams of queenhood dissolved in riverside mud. Perhaps, she hissed to her father, another dragon must fall. Tywin said nothing, yet the candles that lit the hall seemed, in that moment, to burn greener than they ought. The color of old debts and older fires, banked but never extinguished. Winter's first raven landed upon the walls of Winterfell as the last leaves fell from the heart tree. Its message bore 3 seals: dragon, wolf, hand encircled by thorn. Master Luwine broke the wax with trembling fingers, while young Bran and little Arya chased one another through frost-dusted courtyard. The maester read, sank to the bench beside the brazier, and wept for the words spoke of peace made by love. Yet he heard the rattle of distant spears carried on the winds of destiny. Far to the east, across the narrow sea, in a manse overlooking the whispering sands of Pentos, young Viserys Targaryen shattered a goblet when the news arrived. His sister, silver-haired Daenerys, flinched at the outburst but did not cry. Instead, she stared at the spilled wine crawling across tiles like blood and wondered what brother she would kneel to when dragons return. And in the crypts beneath Winterfell, the statues of once Shekim's and long-dead daughters watched darkness coil among the stone roots of the world, patient as memory, sharp as the promise of ice upon the wind. Snow whispered down upon King's Landing scarcely 2 weeks after Rhaegar's coronation. Small folk marveled. Snow so far south, this early? Some said the old gods breathed disapproval. Others claimed it a blessing, the Wolf Queen's dowry borne on winter's wings. Children danced in drifts along Flea Bottom, court ladies huddled by fires, speaking of cloaks lined with sable. Lyanna stood upon the Red Keep's highest balcony, cloak loose about her shoulders, and let flakes melt upon her lashes. Below, the city glittered like a brazier sprinkled with diamonds. She heard footsteps and turned, half expecting RHAEGAR's quiet greeting. Instead, Ned Stark strode into view, limping but tall, gray eyes storm-dark. They faced one another amid falling snow, neither speaking for a long moment. At last, Lyanna opened her arms. Her brother did not move. "Is it true?" he murmured, words a blade sheathed in sorrow. "Did you choose this?" "I did." "And father's bone? Brandon's? Are those chosen too?" "None. In me." Pain lanced her. "Would you have them die for naught, Ned? I could not save them. I can only build something that makes their deaths less useless." Ned's jaw clenched. Snow dusted his beard. "Winter is coming, little sister. We do not barter with dragons and call it summer." Behind them, bells began to ring, port heavy, alarm throaty. Ned turned, hand to sword. Lyanna stepped to the balustrade and looked west. Upon the gilded horizon, ships' lanterns burned like foxfire upon waves. A fleet approached, swift and unannounced, sails crimson with golden lions. In the throne room, Rhaegar listened as a harried Master Gatgarms relayed the sighting. 200 war galleys, your grace, bearing the Lion of Lannister. No peace envoys, no reply to our hails. Rhaegar dismissed him and summoned council. Barristan, Varys, Lord Connington, Grandmaster Gerardis. Words flew like crows, fleeing flame. War, parley, treachery repaid. Rhaegar's thoughts drifted northward, to Lyanna upon the balcony, to the child beneath her heart. His heart. He clenched fist to breastbone. "I will not plunge this realm back to slaughter. We meet them at sea. Nam Idostan, Thanda, Lili." Connington frowned. "Your grace, better to hold the bay. We have scorpions on the walls." "Walls crumble," Rhaegar interrupted. "As my father proved, meet the lion in open water, where his wrath may find no city to burn." Barristan bowed. "As you command." At sunset, the royal fleet slipped its moorings. Rhaegar stood upon the prow of the flagship Black Dread, silver hair streaming, dragon helm beneath arm. Wind-filled sails, sea spray kissed steel. Behind him, Sir Arthur Dayne remained ashore, at the king's order, to guard queen and child. Dayne had argued, but Rhaegar silenced him with a look that spoke of trust older than vows. Night fell swift, swallowing distance. Lantern light revealed the lion fleet closing, a wall of red and gold surging upon black water. Trumpets brayed challenge, echoed by drums that beat the cadence of Lannister ambition. Rhaegar lifted his helm. "Loose," he commanded. Flaming arrows arced skyward, their reflections shattering upon waves. The first clash of hulls reverberated like thunder. As decks became killing grounds, Rhaegar moved through smoke and splinter, blade singing. Beside him, Lord Connington guarded flank, crimson feathered helm, bright as spilled wine. For every lion banner felled, 2 more surged. Somewhere, a war horn bellowed, deeper than any men's lungs could muster, and a monstrous trebuchet stone frothed the sea to stray as it struck Black Dread's quarterdeck. Connington seized Rhaegar's arm. "Back to the longboat," we regrouped. Before the king could reply, a grappling hook clanged across rail. Iron claws tore planks. Lannister boarders screamed oaths. At their head strode Sir to get Lannister, eyes green fire beneath gilded helm, warhammer twin to his cousin Robert's. The weapon descended. Connington parried, bones shuddering. Rhaegar thrust, felt heartwood yield beneath steel, and Tygett staggered. Yet another lion surged, Sir Girion, laughing as he swung twin axes. Steel bit Connington's shoulder, blood sprayed. Rhaegar's sword flashed, but Tygett's dying weight dragged him sideways. Girion's axe found purchase, edge skimming kingly mail, scoring gilded breastplate. Pain blossomed. Rhaegar fell to knee, helm rolled away. Above, moonlight wavered behind smoke. Sounds blurred, shouts, screams, crackling tar, until a sudden roar drowned all. Across the deck leapt a white-cloaked shadow. Sir Jaime Lannister, blade a streak of silver. Axes met sword in clang of sparks. Jaime riposted. Girion's laugh cut short as steel kissed throat. He hauled Rhaegar upright. "The fleet burns," Jaime rasped, eyes wild with battle wine. "My father would see you drowned. We must flee." Rhaegar pressed hand to bleeding flank. "If we run now, the realm bleeds anew." "The realm already bleeds." Jaime half dragged him toward the rail where a tethered skiff bucked. "But your queen bleeds for you. Do not make that wound mortal." Flames licked masts. Black Dread lurched. Rhaegar stared at fire climbing rigging like a golden serpent. Memories cracked open. Wildfire, shattered hearts, the ghost of prophecy. He felt the child move within Lyanna miles distant. He let himself be lowered into the skiff. Oars bit water. Jaime rowed with feral strength as burning spars crashed behind. Around them, ships tangled. The roar of battle faded, replaced by the hiss of embers meeting tide. When at last they reached the lee of Dragonstone's shadowed cliffs, dawn tinted the eastern sky. Jaime slumped, arms shaking. Rhaegar, fever bright, laid hand upon his shoulder. "You have slain one king for honor," he whispered. "Will you protect another for redemption?" Jaime laughed, harsh, almost a sob. "I think I am damned either way." "Then protect the child," Rhaegar said, and behind his eyelids flared an image, snowflakes on black hair, a babe swaddled in gray fur, the roar of a dragon echoed by the howl of a wolf. An old song found new refrain. Lyanna felt the sea burn in her dreams that night. She awoke with a cry upon Dane's broad shoulder. In her sleep-wrought vision, she had smelled smoke and salt, and heard Rhaegar's harp string snap. Dane murmured comfort, yet his eyes flicked toward the horizon, where dawn painted clouds a bruised violet. Far below, in the courtyard, ravens rose from the rookery in a dark tide. Maester Giradis watched them scatter, one hand clutching a sealed scroll that bore a broken wax line. He had not slept. The ink upon his fingers was still wet with words that would ride to every keep and hold fast. Words of betrayal, of fleets aflame, of a crown precarious upon a wounded brow. Beyond the wall, winter's breath thickened. In the frost-rimed forest, the others moved again, whispers waking shadows older than song. And somewhere within the snow-drowned silence, a distant heart began to beat to a rhythm as old as the first dawn. Blood of dragon, blood of wolf, threads of ice and fire twisting toward a tapestry yet unseen. The realm held its breath, balanced upon the edge of the new king's sword, upon the swell of a queen's womb, upon the whispered promise that from sorrow might yet rise a song to outlive darkness itself. The chimes above Dragonstone's sea gate told a mournful 4 before dawn, a gray hour when no fire banished night and dreams clung to waking flesh like cobwebs. Within the island citadel's lordly chambers, King Rhaegar Targaryen drifted somewhere between pain and fevered half-sleep, his breaths hissing past clenched teeth. The wound Sir Gyrion's axe had carved beneath his ribs oozed slow but stubborn, and though Grand Maester Gerardes bled and poulticed and stitched, infection worried every whispered consultation. At the bedside, damp from compresses and sweat, Jaime Lannister kept vigil, eyes ringed black with sleeplessness, hair stiff with salt and smoke. Each time the king's lids fluttered, Jaime leaned close, fearing some final confession he had no right to hear. Instead, Rhaegar muttered fragments, snatches of prophecy, snatches of song. The dragon has 3 heads. The rioter unites the storm. The prince that was promised, is he of smoke or of snow? The words slipped back into silence like stones dropped into a deep well. Morning arrived thin and sullen. An easterly gale rattled shutters, bearing the stink of charred timbers from the blackened hulks that littered the strait. Dragonstone's harbor bobbed with half-burned carracks lashed together in makeshift breakwaters. Corpses still drifted between them, bumping hulls with wet thuds. The royal fleet, pride of the realm, had been reduced to 10 seaworthy galleys, most undercrewed, all scarred. Jaime rose from the chair, bones creaking, and stepped onto the balcony that overlooked a stone courtyard. Maids scurried below, glancing skyward as if expecting dragons. They found only gulls shrieking over the fish markets. In the distance, the dragonmont smoked, a thin plume that seemed a ghost of larger fires now quenched. Footsteps approached, light, measured. Jaime turned as John Connington emerged from the corridor, left arm bandaged tight to his breast. The red of Griffin's roost had seeped through linen in angry blotches. He halted beside Jaime, offered the faintest nod. They stood together listening to the hush that follows calamity. "He'll live," Connington said at last, voice husked. "So claims Gerardes." "He must," Jaime answered. "Without him, we have only graves to dig." Connington stared over the balustrade. "My ravens to storms and perch unanswered. Stannis holes up behind granite and pride. Lord Aaron rides in the veiled gathering bannerman sworn to Robert's memory. Tywin sails for Blackwater again, with twice the hulls." "Yet here we stand," Jaime said, "guardians of an island that spawns only stone dragons. Not only stone, dice." Connington's gaze fell to the courtyard, where a clutch of Dornish knights unloaded casks, stamped with the sun and spear. "The Martells," answered Prince Doran's word. "My spies say 3 sand ship squadrons steer north." "No, but I'm dying. She, Kidonsh." Jaime allowed himself a thin smile. "Then perhaps the sea has room for more ghosts." By the 7th day, Rhaegar woke fully. Afternoon sun lanced through trefoil windows, gilding the silk canopy above him. He blinked, jaw tight against the ache in his side, and found Jaime seated asleep at the foot of the bed, chin drooped to chest, one hand still curled upon sword belt. Rhaegar cleared his throat. Jaime's eyes snapped open, pupils dilating. He surged up, relief draining tension from his shoulders. "How long?" the king rasped. 8 days since the battle," Jaime replied. "We feared you'd slip beyond the world and leave us to its mercy." Rhaegar tried to laugh. Pain reduced it to a cough. The world has no mercy. He looked to the arched doorway where candle smoke drifted. Lyanna, safe in the Red Keep, Jaime assured. Sir Dane keeps her under closer guard than any vault of gold. Ned Stark, too. Though the lords of the north chafe at his absence. A pause. She knows you live. My raven flew at once. Relief loosened knots in Rhaegar's chest. And the realm bleeds, Jaime said simply, but refused death. Your council meets on Dragonstone now. We've summoned lords loyal and wavering alike. They land by the day. Warm. Rhaegar pushed upright. The effort left him breathless, yet resolute. Then the king will rise. Bring Gerardis. I'll not greet them as an invalid while crowns crack. By dusk, the painted table chamber shimmered with lamplight and tension. Lords lined the walls. Valerion in silvered mail, Celtigar with his ruby-encrusted trident, Bar Emin, Swan, Massey. Dornish envoys in copper armor stood near the doorway, eyes bright with salt wind cunning. John Connington presided over parchments splayed across the ancient map. Jaime, still cloaked white but bearing no sigil save resolve, stood apart. When Rhaegar entered, clad in quilted black doublet that hid stitches, silence swept the hall. He moved slower than his former grace, yet each step rang sure. Stopping at the island spine that formed the neck on Aegon's map, he placed both hands flat. Lords of Westeros, he began, voice low, a lute note plucked in quiet chamber, yet heard by all. War has stolen fathers and sons, shattered fleets and poisoned trust. I will not permit it further scrawled upon our children's bones. Nandashis. Valerion bowed his silver head. Your grace, House Valerion sails beside you, yet the lion's teeth sink deeper each tide. Their fleet regroups at Crackclaw Point. King's Landing holds but barely, though the city watch favors you. Oh, the city watch favors you. A Celtigar knight snorted. Gold cloaks favor coin, and the lion's purse outweighs any. Rhaegar let that pass. Doran Martell sends ships and spears, not to avenge Ilias' memory, but to guard the realm she loved. Stannis withholds storms and only, until proof of my intent arrives. I mean to give him that proof. Nis Davis. Connington's injured hand curled upon the map. Proof. Justice. Rhaegar met each gaze. I will call a great council at Harrenhal, come the new moon. Every lord paramount and ranking heir will attend, or forfeit seat and title. We shall weigh the grievances of realm and crown, decide reparations, and swear binding peace, beneath witness of 7 and old gods alike. Murmurs rippled. Harrenhal's blackened towers had not forgotten whispers of sorcery. Jaime's brow arched. He, who had bathed corridors in blood to end a tyrant, sensed the serpents such a council might birth. A young Stormlander lordling, a Karen, laughed bitterly. And Tywin Lannister will meekly kneel. He sends men to kill you, your grace. He'll send assassins to Harrenhal. Then I welcome him to try. Rhaegar said, quiet steel beneath calm. Let every blade point at me, so none point at the babe my queen carries. Heads bowed. None could speak against a father's plea, yet fear lingered, a chill draft through stone cracks. Councils did not end wars. They marked their pauses. Across the narrow sea, dusk-stained Pentos gold, as Illyrio Mopatis ushered young Viserys Targaryen through colonnades heavy with orange blossoms. Courtiers in gauzy robes parted, curious. Viserys strode barefoot, silk trousers dyed purple, though frayed, pale hair tangled by sea mist. Illyrio's hands fluttered, rings glinting. Your brother's victory dims, my prince, the Magister said between panting breaths. Reports speak of fleets aflame, a council to behead dragons with parchment. Should the lions swallow the west, Westeros may forget the true blood. Viserys scowled. RHAEGAR gambles our birthright on Northmen and desert whores. Let him drown in his songs. I will forge my own crown. Illyrio's smile secreted promise. I know of Calazars that cross the red waste come spring, mounted hordes who respect only strength and pure lineage. Viserys slowed. Dothraki, barbarians who fear neither storm nor siege. A queen amongst them might earn their loyalty with little more than silver hair and dragon lore. Illyrio's eyes flicked toward the terrace where Daenerys listened, quiet as moonrise. She was 12 now, slender as reeds, face unreadable. Viserys scoffed. My sister is shy as a scepter. A different skin grows beneath each year, Illyrio murmured, and dragons shed shells to soar. Viserys considered, ambition scraping raw hunger behind his teeth. Bring me this cowl. Snow fell in King's Landing again, fat, wet flakes that melted upon cobblestones, leaving icy sludge in alleys and choking drains. Lyanna watched from Maegor's holdfast window, while maids wrapped her in wolf fur cloak. Sir Arthur Dayne entered, armor polished, though the gloom dulled dawn's shimmer. The king lives, he said, voice a gift greater than any jewel. Lyanna exhaled, felt spears of worry ease though not withdraw. Rhaegar yet fought Tywin's shadow. Dayne handed her the raven scroll. Harrenhal, Great Council, New Moon. She nodded once. We ride within the week. The babe will not wait eternity. Travel may tax your strength, Dayne cautioned. I have ridden from Dorne with sand in my lungs and war at my heels, she replied. A winter road north is gentler. Dayne almost smiled. Us, my queen commands. Outside the window, she glimpsed Ned Stark crossing the inner yard, cloak sodden, boots black with slush. She descended to meet him near the kennels, where hounds howled at weather they did not understand. Ned's expression softened when he saw her belly's curve. He knelt, gloved hand trembling. Little sister. Lyanna laid fingers upon his. I asked you once to protect me from Robert's song. You have. Now protect this realm from its own dirges. Ned rose. I pledged fealty to the crown for love of you. I'll not break it, yet men speak Robert's name in taverns. They call your child bastard of war. I know. Lyanna's breath clouded. Truth seldom outshouts gossip, but truth endures. Help me show them. One? Yeah. Ned searched her face, wolf to wolf, then nodded. I ride with you to Harrenhal. Winterfell will heed my letters. Harrenhal's charred towers loomed against pale sky as a wound reopened. Smoke from earlier centuries still seemed to curl between jagged ramparts, yet banners now crowded the God's Eye shore. The sun and spear of Dorne, the silver trout of River Run, the golden rose of Highgarden, the white hart of the Reach's House Rowan, the griffin of Connington. Even the flayed man of Bolton flapped uneasy. Rumors said Roose had come more for curiosities than counsel. Tywin Lannister's Crimson Field, however, was absent. Days passed. Ravens returned unanswered. Connington urged postponement. Barristan insisted the king's word stand. Rhaegar arrived by barge from Dragonstone, pale but upright, clad in midnight armor, chased with rubies that glowed like embers in overcast light. At his side, Jaime bore the white sword of Kingsguard, though distrust rippled at the lion upon his helm. As they rode through Harrenhal's gaping gate, commoners clustered beyond timber. Palisades knelt, many lifting children to glimpse the wounded king, who promised an end to their sons' graves. Lyanna followed in a closed litter, yet at the gate she pushed curtain aside and stepped onto churned earth. Gasps scattered. She wore a gown of winter gray velvet, embroidered with three-headed wolf dragon sigil, devised only weeks past. A dire wolf entwined with dragon wings, red eyes blazing. Within the shape of her stomach stirred the promise of two bloods. Some knelt, some turned away. The realm was still deciding. Lyanna met each gaze unflinching. She did not need their love, only their understanding that she would fight as fiercely as any man to spare the next generation. The great hall of Harrenhal had lost its roof to dragon flame centuries ago. Yet masons had raised wooden scaffolds hung with oiled canvas to keep weather at bay. There, upon a dais of blackened oak, RHAEGAR took the driftwood throne carved for the council. Simple, splintered, meant to remind kings and lords alike that power is but wood until men believe it. Lyanna sat one step below, hands upon swelled belly. Bishops of the Seven and a hooded heart tree priests stood behind, each a reminder that gods multiplied among mortals. Lords advanced to speak grievances. Tully's demanded recompense for fields trampled by Robert's host. Mace Tyrell sought contracts for grain shipments. Martells asked justice for Elia and her children left vulnerable, when RHAEGAR whisked Lyanna south. The North wanted Brandon and Rickard, mourned by tournaments of honor. Ironborn muttered about salt wives and rusted chain. RHAEGAR listened, voice soft as river wind, bending here, promising there, drawing lines of compromise that wove tapestry from fraying threads. On the third night, thunder rolled. Scouts reported a host sighted west, banners crimson and gold, numbers vast. Tywin Lannister approached. Panic rippled, some cried for arms. RHAEGAR ordered gates held and hearths stoked. "Let the lion taste hospitality before judgment," he said. Tywin entered at dawn with a column of knights, steel-hard and silent. Snow clung to fur mantles, melting upon flagstones. He strode before the dais, removed helm. Golden hair dappled with gray framed, a face chiseled to coin-like coldness. He did not kneel. "My king," Tywin said, each word polished to obsidian, "I come to seek redress. My son stands accused of regicide, an act that spared this realm greater ruin. Yet tongues wag. I will brook no stain upon Lannister blood." Jaime stiffened behind the throne. RHAEGAR raised hand. Sir Jaime served the realm when duty demanded, yet kingslayers pay heavy tolls in lore and conscience. He will bear that weight without chains. Tywin's lid twitched. Acceptable. But House Lannister also bears cost. Ships lost, men dead, reputations bruised. I propose union to solder wounds. His gaze slid to Lyanna's belly. "Your Majesty's line blooms anew. Permit my daughter Cersei to wed the babe when of age. Lion to dragon wolf, west to throne. Such alliance ends whispers." A hush rustled banners. Lyanna's hand tightened on armrest. Jaime's breath caught. Ned Stark, seated with northerners, growled low. RHAEGAR considered. Promising an infant's life course to settle present wars invites future ones. "I will not sell peace at a child's expense." "Now thee." Tywin's jaw set, but he inclined head. "Then coin shall suffice. Half the crown's debt forgiven, fleets replaced at Lannister cost. In return, we ask River Run's pledge that no Trident blood claim persists." Hoster Tully rose, whiskers bristling. "The Trident's blood is not coin to barter." Voices burst, lions, trout, roses, spears, and the hall became storm. RHAEGAR banged pommel of sword on oaken arm, thunder silenced. "We adjourn. At sunrise, we seal terms. No blade drawn here tonight." Tywin swept bow. "As you decree, your grace. Yet dawn always follows night." He turned, crimson cloak whispering like promise of spilled life. Behind him, Cersei walked, green eyes coals beneath torchlight. She paused near Ned Stark, lips twisting. He felt old chill, as though winter's wind carried prophecy of daggers unsheathed. That night, Lyanna could not sleep. Harrenhal's guest solar groaned beneath wind. Shadows skittered along warped beams. She rose, padding barefoot to fire. Flames licked birch logs. She pressed palm to belly, murmured lullaby old as winter fell. Gentle snow wolf, hush and sleep, moon above the pines. The babe answered with flutter that felt like wings, not kicks. Door hinges creaked. She turned. Jaime stood in archway, expression uncertain. "My queen," he said, half bow. "Forgive intrusion." "Sleep evades me." "May as well," she admitted. She gestured to bench. He sat, clasping gauntlets. "Tomorrow my father will offer you poisons sweet as honey," Jaime said. "He weaves debts into chains." "I suspected as much." He stared at fire. "Cersei was promised Rhaegar once. Father dreams that promise renewed. She dreams. Other dream." Lyanna studied him. "And you?" "I dream of redemption I cannot name." He flexed gloved hand. "Killing Aerys cost me my honor. Saving your king cost me my house's love. I stand between oaths belonging to none." "You belong to the child whose life you guarded," Lyanna said gently. "Honor shapes itself to deeds." Jaime swallowed. "Then let new deeds forge stronger honor. My sword for your son or daughter." Lyanna reached across, fingers light upon his battered knuckles. "Live that vow, the babe will know your name." A knock shattered the hush. Sir Arthur Dane entered, face taut. "Forgive." Scouts caught shadows near the godswood. "We fear assassins." "Nay. Panzeda, Sebediwajidwa, Kalibwa." Lyanna rose, blood rushing ice through veins. "Take me to the king." Rhaegar's chamber in the widow's tower smelled of rain-soaked stone and myrrh. Deratis fussed at Brazier, muttering about damn. As Lyanna entered with Dane and Jaime flanking, a figure detached from window. Lord Varys, powder pale, silk slippers silent. "Your Majesties," he cooed, "forgive the hour. I bring tidings dark as raven wing." He unfurled parchment, a map of tunnels beneath Harrenhal. My little bird's chirp of wildfire caches hidden in vaults below. Alchemists loyal to Aerys stashed them during his last progress. Should some ill-minded soul ignite them, stone will sing like the trident's roar. Nauni. Lyanna's heart hammered. Rhaegar's face emptied of color. How certain. Certain enough to risk a eunuch's neck. Varys's smile trembled. "I believe our lion has sniffed this secret." Tywin. Jaime's voice cracked. Would he sacrifice his own seat at council? Dane frowned. Lyanna imagined Harrenhal aflame, pregnant belly charred, council dissolved in molten rock, realm leaderless. She turned to Rhaegar. "We must move the council to the shore at dawn, search the vaults." Rhaegar pressed palm to wound sight. Pain sparked eyes. "Sir Arthur, take your best. Jaime, guide him. If wildfire hides, a Lannister may know its scent." Jaime hesitated, then nodded. Varys bowed and vanished into gloom, robes whispering like serpents on marble. Lyanna closed door behind, leaning as dizziness threatened. Rhaegar crossed quickly, arms encircling. "Rest," he urged. She shook head. "Not while death coils beneath." She rested forehead to his. "Let morning find us resolute." Before sunrise, torches flickered through Harrenhal's undercroft. Dane, Jaime, and a dozen hand-picked swords crept through passages lined with roots and rubble. Rats skittered in wake. Jaime led by memory. Years ago he'd overheard Tywin praise Harrenhal's hidden cisterns for their strategic value. They found first cache beneath the hall of 100 hearths, green jars sealed with wax, sigils of the Alchemists' Guild stamped upon clay, dozens stacked in cradles of straw and pitch. Dawn's pale blade reflected liquid inside, swirling jade that caught torch glow like demon eyes. Dane swore soft. Behind, a sellsword slipped, torch sputtering. Barely was flame steadied before torch oil dripped to earthen floor. Jamie's gut clenched. Any spark could birth cataclysm. They doused lanterns, worked by moonlit shafts through cracks above. Crates were borne one by one to rain-slick courtyard where maesters doused them in icy troughs. 3 hours passed before final vault opened. Inside, no wildfire. Instead, a single table held scrolls sealed with crimson wax. A gilded cat mask rested atop. Jamie lifted mask, steel beneath lacquer, weighty. Not lion, Dane murmured. Tyrell rose. Jamie said, "The Queen of Thorns sigil." He broke wax. The parchment bore a simple message. A dragon's head burns brightest when severed. Long may flowers bloom. Dane's eyes narrowed. A threat or a lure? Jamie tucked the scroll. "Bring it to the king. Council begins in 1 hour." Sunrise painted the god's eye bronze as lords gathered outside Harrenhal's gates, confusion rife. RHAEGAR, clothed in black leather cloak dusted silver at the collar, addressed them atop a makeshift dais. Lyanna sat beside, face pale. "My lords," he called, voice carrying over iron-gray water. "During the night we discovered wildfire buried beneath these halls. Until it is removed, no man sets foot inside. The council reconvenes upon the lakeshore." Gasps, murmurs. Tywin, mounted upon white courser, expression stone, said only, "Fortune smiles on those who act swiftly, your grace." The lion wearies of wolfish delays. RHAEGAR met his gaze. "As do I." He gestured. Stark guards advanced bearing Brandon and Rickard's carved statues newly shipped from Winterfell crypts. Effigies of weirwood and ironwood, expressions serene. "We begin with remembrance." At their unveiling, Ned Stark's shoulders shook. Tears shone unashamed. Lyanna's breath hitched. Lannisters shifted impatient. Yet, the crowd, small folk and highborn alike, bowed heads. When silence settled, RHAEGAR spoke of justice, of debts and lives no coin repaid, of oaths renewals require, of children watching. Then he produced the Tyrell scroll. Lords murmured as message read aloud. Mace Tyrell sputtered disclaimers, sworn he knew nothing. Yet Queen of Thorns' absence at council weighed heavier than his words. Wariness spread like frost on still pond. Amid unease, riders approached from north, Bolton banners blood-red blowing. Roose dismounted, eyes pale, lips curved faintly. He carried a bundle swaddled in black. "A gift for the king," he said, voice soft as snow. He unwrapped cloth, Robert Baratheon's antler-helmed skull, the lower jaw smashed where Warhammer met bone. Shock rippled. Some lordlings gagged. Roose bowed. Found upon white knife bank, wolves devoured the rest. The rebellion ends truly now. Lyanna trembled, for the skull's empty sockets seemed to accuse. RHAEGAR accepted nonetheless, draping it in crimson velvet. "Let this war's last bone be laid to rest." He turned to lords. "Enough death, sign the accords." One by one, they approached a long oak table, etched names upon vellum. Martell, Tully, Aaron, Stark, Velaryon, Greyjoy, Hightower. Even Bolton and Bar Emmon set seals. But when Tywin stepped forward, quill poised, a messenger galloped into camp, cloak in tatters. "King's Landing," he shouted, voice ragged. "The city riots. Food stores burned. Gold cloaks overwhelmed. A lion host advances from the west, led by Lord Kevin and Sir Gregor Clegane. They breach the city walls by sunset. Tywin's brows arched. Whether surprise or measured performance, none could tell. Rhaegar's fists clenched. Lyanna rose too quickly. Dizziness swam. Ned steadied her. "My queen must be safe," Rhaegar said. "I sail tonight with those who will defend her." Tywin's gaze flicked to accords unsigned. "And the council, your grace?" "Continues under hand of the king." He turned to John Connington. "Old Harrenhal, finish the oaths. At dawn ride for King's Landing with every lord who signs. We end this." Tywin dipped quill, scrawled lion's sigil flourish, eyes never leaving Rhaegar. Ink dried like dark blood. Galleys launched under hastily mended sails, dragon banners snapping. Rhaegar stood at prow, wind needling stitches, Jaime beside. Ned Stark too. Unlikely trio bound by a woman's love, and realm's peril. Beneath deck, Lyanna rested among furs, Dane reading to her from a Septon's tales of heroes who carried Winterflame. Storm clouds gathered over Blackwater as fleet neared dusk. Plumes of smoke already smeared sky. Distant bells clanged madness. As galleys angled into river mouth, they found refugees in skiffs, faces smudged with ash. Some hailed Rhaegar's banner, others shrank in fear. Rumor of new Dragon King's doom had spread. On the city wall, Clegane men raised severed heads of gold cloaks loyal to crown. Lannister crimson dripped down stone like molten wax. Yet within Maegor's holdfast, white swords still stood. Barristan Selmy commanded a dwindling force guarding queen and babe. Ravens had reached him at dawn. He meant to hold until moon set or die white cloak. Rhaegar's galley rammed the wharf. Planks dropped. Jaime vaulted first, shouting to confused Lannister guards that their true lord still breathed. Some wavered, others aimed crossbows. Rhaegar followed, sword unsheathed, red rubies flashing. Ned's Northmen poured behind, shields iron gray, war cries howling like dire wolves after long silence. Streets burned. Bread market stalls smoldered. Charred timber collapsed across Flea Bottom Alley, pinning screaming children. Ned knelt, hauled beams off, shouting for maesters. Rhaegar pressed on toward Sept Gate, where fighting raged. Clegane himself met them, towering, helm carved like snarling hound. He swung greatsword two-handed, cleaving Northman's skull. Sparks flew from Ned's parry. Rhaegar circled, slashed Clegane's knee. Steel bit chain, blood sprayed. The mountain roared, turned. Jaime slid undercut, dagger opening inner thigh. Clegane staggered, each breath gurgling pain, yet still swung until Ned's longsword sank through gorget and stilled him. They surged through breach. Meanwhile, other lords' levies arrived by southern roads. Tully, Arryn, Tyrell. City watchmen, seeing banners converge, tossed helms and fled. Lannister host wavered, but Kevin Lannister rallied archers upon Gin Alley, flaming arrows arcing. One found sailcloth sack near granary. Burst flame leapt to tar barrel. Explosion rocked ward. Civilians screamed. Rhaegar ordered buckets. Small folk joined knights stamping embers. Amid chaos, Lyanna was carried through postern, guarded by Dane, flanked by two dire wolf-pelted guards Ned had handpicked. She refused to cower within holdfast. She would see realm saved. Inside Maidenvault courtyard, Barristan greeted her, armor dented. "My queen, the babe, kicks like a mule," she said. "Where's the king?" The cheer answered. Rhaegar strode in, hair soot-streaked, tunic slashed but eyes bright. Lyanna flew to him. He clasped her gently. Over her shoulder he saw Jaime approach, helm under arm. For first time since Trident, relief softened Rhaegar's features. Yet bells still rang. Tywin's lion banners crested Street of Sisters, Silverhorn's brain. Golden Company parted civilians like wheat. Battle threatened to reignite. Rhaegar mounted parapet. "Lords of the West," he called, voice powered by every choir of memory. "Your liege stands before you. Sheathe swords, end slaughter." Silence answered. Then Tywin emerged astride white charger, armor polished, mirror bright. He raised gauntleted fist. Soldiers halted. The two kings, crown old and crown new, met eyes across gulf of street. "I come not as usurper," Tywin said, voice carrying. "The accords bind me." "Then call off your men," Rhaegar replied. Tywin's gaze flicked to Lyanna, visible beside King. "The realm must see order." "Order forged in fire breeds ashes," Rhaegar said. "I offer amnesty. Lay down arms, share grain to feed city. The court will recompense losses." Tywin's lips thinned. "Very well." He lifted hand. Horns sounded retreat. Lions lowered banners. City air released breath long held. But from crow-crowned rooftop behind Tywin, an archer loosed single shaft. Jaime, eyes sharp, shouted. Rhaegar turned, but arrow streaked past, striking Lyanna's side. She cried out, folding. Barristan caught her before knees hit stone. Chaos erupted. Northmen roared. Lannisters tensed. Rhaegar knelt, wrenching off gauntlet, pressing hand to wound. A thin line above hip. Blood seeped, but not gush. Lyanna's eyes wide. She whispered, "The babe." Gerardis shoved through, examined quickly. "Flesh wound, my queen, child untouched." Rhaegar stood, fury sheathing grief. "Find the archer," he snarled. Jaime was already scaling barrels with two white cloaks. They tackled a hooded figure. Rooftop tiles shattered. Body tumbled, snapping. Hood pulled back, revealed golden curls. Cersei Lannister's eyes stared glassy at dawn she would never see. Word rippled. Lioness slain by own arrow. Tywin's face remained marble, yet crack webbed behind mask as father's soul shivered. He reined mount, wheeled silently, retreat signaling final. Winter months passed. Snow dusted every bailey from White Harbor to Old Town. Yet no marching hosts marred drifts. The accords, ink dried by sacrifice, held. Tywin returned west, wrapped in grief-forged armor of silence. Jaime remained Lord Commander, vow-bound to queen and child. On the first day of the new year, Lyanna labored within Maegor's holdfast as wind howled through dragonglass arrow slits. Rhaegar paced corridor, harp unstrung in hands. Ned arrived from Winterfell, cheeks raw from travel. When a babe's cry pierced stone, he sank to knees in prayer. The child was born hale, a girl with silver-black curls, eyes storm-gray. They named her Rhaenys, Snow Targaryen, at Lyanna's insistence. Snow to honor wolf blood. Rhaenys for the dragon queen who rode clouds. Rhaegar promised her no cradle of swords would guard her. Only songs learned from past's sharp edge. Yet as maids celebrated, Varys stood on tower of the hand balcony, listening to winds that carried rumors across narrow seas. Whisper of a silver prince courting Dothraki hordes, mage priests in Ashai dreaming of dragons reborn, ships of the Iron Bank funding exiled claimants. The eunuch stroked shaved scalp. Peace thrived only where men tended it with vigilance, and even then weeds of power sprouted. In the far north, at a watch post atop the wall, ranger named Corin, half-hand, squinted into swirling snow and spied pale figures flitting between trees, shapes that glowed faint blue in moon's reflection. He muttered oath, turned south to warn Castle Black. Winter gathered strength beyond mortal quarrels, and beneath Dragonstone, in caverns warmed by ancient fire, 3 eggs of stone, once dull, now faintly luminous, rested amid smoldering coals. The heat had grown these past moons, pulsing as though echoing heartbeat of a newborn child who bore 2 destinies within small chest. The realm exhaled, yet destiny inhaled anew, the song of ice and fire twisting another verse. Peace had come, but peace is a candle in storm, bright, fragile, demanding steady hands and hearts that remember flame's lessons. The king tuned his harp again. The queen stitched direwolf into dragon banner. Their daughter slept while above her cradle snowflakes melted upon ruby-stitched canopy, and far away the sea sang of dragons yet to fly. Wind scoured the crocus-colored dusk above the city while King's Landing pressed closer to its hearths, listening for news that never seemed to end. Market girls whispered of the silver wolf princess, born beneath winter's first star. Dockside gamblers took bets on her dragon's wings before she could crawl. Septus prayed that her mixed blood might knit sundered houses the way mortar binds broken stone. The Red Keep itself throbbed with new rhythms, soft cries from the nursery, the muffled pluck of a harp tuned at odd hours, the tramp of fresh-minted guards in wolf-wing livery, flanking gold cloaks along frost-slick corridors. Peace had teeth like a hunting cat, and Rhaegar Targaryen meant to keep them sharp. He began with the council chamber, stripping it of old tapestries reeking of Aerys's reign, banning velvet cushions that lulled lords to indolence, ordering long ashwood benches set in double rows so that allies and rivals must sit face to face and learn the patience of listening. At each meeting, he carried no crown, only a plain iron circlet. At his right hand, Lyanna sat, newborn swaddled against her breast, and when men argued, she hummed northern lullabies until voices dropped to match their queen's soft ferocity. The child's presence disarmed even crusted veterans who had watched boys spill entrails at the Trident. No man could thunder threats while a babe blinked owl, curious eyes in lamplight. Ned Stark stayed 6 weeks more, his honor unwilling to abandon sister and niece, while Lannister companies still bivouacked at the city's western gates. Each dawn he sparred with Jaime beneath the Red Keep's shadow, swords ringing across frozen flagstones. They fought without heralds, a match for silent ghosts. Ned's northern precision against Jaime's lion-quick reflex. Sweat steamed in pale beams, while shadow ravens glided across the snow-dusted yard. As days stretched, their bout grew less a contest than a conversation conducted in steel. Respect burgeoned where suspicion had rooted. Barristan Selmy, meanwhile, drilled a new class of lads culled from all 7 kingdoms. Blackmont bastards, with quick wrists, quiet rivermen orphaned by floods, low-born capital youths whose backs curved from hauling nets, molding them to the fledgling Order of the Dawn. The king decreed that 7 of these squires would someday bear milk-white swords alongside Dane's legendary blade, their oaths sworn not to a bloodline, but to ideals etched in Valyrian steel. Protect the innocent, speak truth while tongues yet flickered, stay a hand until justice sharpened its edge. Cynics called it dream forging, yet small folk sent sons willingly, believing perhaps that dreams hammered long enough could strike sparks in the real. Tywin Lannister lingered within his townhouse on Visenya's Hill, receiving neither summons nor couriers save those he dispatched himself. He ate alone, drank watered wine, and each night reread Cersei's childhood letters collected in a lacquered chest, inkblots shaped like fledgling cats and crowns drawn in shaky lines. He burned one letter each night and scattered ashes from the window, counting them like beads upon a silent rosary of grief. Kevin urged withdrawal to the Rock, but Tywin answered only with further orders. Lannisport forges would run day and night, Trade envoys would secure iron shipments from Pentos. The mountains men would ride the gold road, culling bandits who had multiplied as quickly as peace. The realm might forget the lion's roar for a season, but Tywin would teach it the cost of forgetting. South of the Mander, Olenna Tyrell read reports of wildfire caches foiled at Harrenhal and merely chuckled. The dragon's whelp learns quickly, she told her grandson Willis. Yet she dispatched fresh wagons of grain northward and offered hostages to the crown, 2 bright nephews to serve as pages, gestures that cost little but purchased rumor of Tyrell loyalty. In private letters she reminded Rhaegar that flowers thrived in ashes should the soil be turned with care. The Reach wished only to tend gardens without stepstones soaked in blood. Rhaegar read each missive aloud to Lyanna, who caught the hidden blooming threat and smiled wolfishly at such verdant cunning. Across the narrow sea, Viserys Targaryen knelt before Khal Barco under the copper sky of Vaes Orvikar, a ring of men-mounted horses snorting around him. His palms bled from burning sand, sweat slicked pale hair to brow. "I am the rightful dragon," he proclaimed in halting Dothraki, voice cracking like sun-bleached bone. Barco laughed, a sound that rolled like thunder across parched flats, and struck Viserys with the butt of his arak. Spices of dust clouded midnight braids, yet Daenerys spoke then, low as breeze. Khaleesi, she named herself, offering the Khal a pebble shaped like a dragon egg, smoothed by tide against Pentoshi quays. The warlord's curiosity stayed his cruelty. Within that glance between girl and giant lay the seed of a bargain. A Khal's unborn son might someday ride a wooden sea, if only the Silver Queen promised him a world on the far shore. Winter deepened. At Castle Black, Lord Commander Corgyle lit the 900th night fire to stave off cold that seeped even into hardened hearts. Rangers returned with tales of villages emptied, sheep frozen upright like startled statues, and prints that sank too shallow for any man yet led toward dead groves where heart trees bled black resin. Maester Aemon sent ravens south, cryptic feathers bearing words. Shadows lengthen, old cold stir. Only Rhaegar read the warning with throat gone dry, understanding perhaps that the song haunting his life had always been duet. Its second voice older than dragonkind. He summoned the small council at midnight, candles guttering in gusts through arrow slits. John Connington arrived steel-eyed from Riverland's pacification. Varys drifted in slipper-soft. Grand Maester Gerardis clutched scrolls that trembled like autumn leaves. Rhaegar placed a shard of strange ice on the table, brought by Ned's swiftest raven, solid yet exuding mist. "This," he said, "was found beneath a corpse who lived none can say how long beyond death. We planned for intrigue, coin, and crowns, yet winter hunts a different game." He named the nights, watched depleted, the wall crumbling, the realm distracted by wounds of men, while something inhuman knitted its own armies beneath the aurora. Connington, practical as flint, proposed dispatching crown levies north at once. Gerardis counseled prayer, for prophecy rarely traveled alone. Varys watched wax drip and asked who would guard the south when lion and kraken yet sharpened claws. Silence weighed until Lyanna stepped from shadowed alcove, diapered babe in crook of arm. "Send me," she said. "A Stark's blood keeps its promises to the cold." Rhaegar's protest died when he met her unwavering gaze. In those eyes he saw quiet resolve of Winterfell stone and pyres of Trident both. And he yielded as water yields to bank, shaping, not breaking. They planned at once. An embassy of wolves and dragons to the wall itself. A signal to every lord that heed must be paid beyond the narrow fences of power. Preparations bloomed across late winter weeks. Lyanna rode daily with Dane, Jaime, and a quartet of order and training through Kingswood paths slick with hoarfrost, teaching posture to pages and patience to recklessness. They camped beneath ancient oaks, stars like needle points. Lyanna sang lullabies while Rhaenys cooed at ember flicker, and Jaime listened as though each note smelted a new link upon his tarnished honor. In the city, Ned's letters rallied northern bannermen. Umber sledges piled oats and smoked war. Karstark smiths retooled axes for Cold's brutalness. Mormont's she-bears readied hard-eyed daughters to march. When raven wings eclipsed the moon over White Harbor, Wyman Manderly declared any man who shirked levy would sweep docks until finger bones split from chill. At Dragonstone, the dormant eggs pulsed faintly each dawn. Rhaegar visited alone, harp in hand, playing chords only he could glean, hoping perhaps that music might coax stone to birth flame. One morning, a crack laced across the onyx shell, exhaling sulfur-sweet breath. He touched it, flinching at heat that did not burn, and left with heartbeat hammering like hooves. He told no one save Barristan, whose eyes went wide, then shuttered. For a dragon reborn was miracle and menace both. Viserys sailed meanwhile with 1,000 riders across the Jade Gates aboard ships purchased by Illyria's coin, barcos Khalazar packed with twitchy horses that hated decks. None believed wood could carry them over salt water, yet Daenerys sang low and braided manes with silver bells until animals stilled. Mid-crossing a storm shattered masts. 2 ships sank. Drowned horses kicked toward impossible plains. Viserys shrieked at waves, but Daenerys whispered to wind and lightning, dreaming perhaps of storms older than men. When they landed near Tarth's lonely cliffs, ravens fled inland, word borne to Tyrell spies who tasted opportunity like ripe peach. Spring's first thaw arrived on the anniversary of the Trident, riverbanks cracking open with murmur of restless current. Rhaegar watched from ramparts as ice floes drifted seaward, carrying broken branches past fisher skiffs. He turned to Jaime, cloaked now in wool, dyed smoke gray rather than white. "Does the lion fear the cold?" he asked. Jaime's mouth quirked. "The lion prefers sun, but hunts regardless." Rhaegar nodded, meaning deeper. Could Jaime face his father's inevitable rebellion of silence? The Kingslayer met the question, shoulders squared. Honor is colder when pressed to one's throat. The royal procession departed at dawn 5 days later. Queen and king astride pale mares, babe cradled in wicker cradle, lined with direwolf fur. Ned Stark commanding 1,000 Northmen in shaggy cloaks, Dane bearing dawn, blades sheened like moonset. Jaime leading 200 gold cloaks, sworn personally to him. Martell, spearmen cloaked in sun. They marched through Hayford, Rosby, Duskendale, drawing crowds who knelt not for spectacle, but in wary faith that this royal household truly belonged to the realm. At Maidenpool, a riot nearly undid that faith. A Tyroshi merchant caravan had raised prices on salt fish, and starving peasants seized barrels. The merchant's guards cut down 2 women, sparks igniting tinder. When Lyanna rode through the square, mob roiled like storm tide. She dismounted, baby sling tight across chest, and strode alone to the panicked merchant, demanding ledger and knife. She carved debt, tallies into wood, striking 0 beside names of starving families, then poured her own coins into barrel until copper hid bloodstains. The square fell hush as snow. Rhaenys gurgled. Lyanna lifted her, voice carrying, "We do not feed war anymore. We feed children." Thunderous cheers chased them from the town. By nightfall, bards already spun queen with child legends, and Rhaegar knew such songs would do more to guard the crown than any mailed fist. Beyond the neck, moors lay drowned in sleet. Grandmothermen guided procession on rafts through mirrored pools. Arrow-notched bows guarding from willow blinds. Howland Reed met Lyanna beneath pale heart tree, and wept to see her alive. He pledged all Greywater shields to watch the marshes for strange fires, for rumor told of shadowy figures pacing bog islands, eyes shining blue like stars trapped under ice. Finally the wall rose, a mountain of ancient frost, blue as moonlit glaciers, taller than any tower. The convoy's campfires flickered weak near its immensity. Lord Commander Korgile led them through narrow tunnel, ice pressing like cathedral walls, dripping with centuries. Rhaegar ducked low door into Castle Black's courtyard, half empty, windswept, smelling of pine pitch and desperation. Brothers in black lined parapets, faces worn and watchful. Lyanna felt chills sink into bones, not of cold but of recognition. The North's true heart beat here, slow and solemn, a warning drum. That eve in the armory turned hall, they feasted on oat bread, salt pork, and hot spiced ale. John Connington arrived 2 days later by raven-backed steed bearing sealed parchments. Tywin had withdrawn to Casterly Rock, but fleets out of Old Volantis now anchored at Sunspear. Certain dragons called them. The Iron Arundel demanded payment schedules. The Faith Militant in Old Town held fast to neutrality, yet quietly trained new brothers. Rhaegar read these by torchlight, then listened to rangers' tales. Pale spiders on 2 legs stalking rangings. Whispers of ancient horns blowing beyond frost fangs. Maester Aemon's blind eyes glisten. The song, he murmured, deepens its key. Rhaegar addressed gathered black brothers in the mess hall. Your numbers have dwindled while kings feuded, no longer. For everyone who takes the black henceforth, the crown forgives a year's taxes of his village. For every 10th recruit a holdfast shall receive seed grain free. The realm will pay its debt to its shield. Applause was muted. The watch was wary of king's promises, but hope flickered like candle newly trimmed. Lyanna walked the wall's top at midnight, cloak snapping. Ned beside her, she asked of childhood japes, berry wars, vengeance pranks. Ned spoke sparingly, but with warmth thawed by memory. When he brooded over Brandon's fate, Lyanna pressed gloved hand to ice. Ghosts linger if we feed them. Let the wall keep them. Ned sighed, letting breath plume through darkness. Winter's memory is long, yet so is spring's. They shared silence, eyes scanning beyond for movement the living seldom see. South, winter loosened. Crocuses sprouted along the King's Road. Bees woke. Tyrell riders escorted wagons of honey and grain to King's Landing, where rose-red refugees trickled seeking work upon rebuilding granaries. The Queen's policy of grain credits circulated coin. Bakers reopened. Smugglers discovered honest profit. For the first time since Eris's early reign, small folk dared plan harvest dances. At Storm's End, Stannis Baratheon convened his lords to weigh dragons versus death. He had received Rhaegar's royal pardon and offered lordly seat on a council of shipping. Yet he pored over ledgers long into night, jaw grind. He still heard Robert's laughter echo across sea cliffs, his hammers ring. But he also saw Hunger's shadow and Shireen playing with cloth dolls, because no gold remained for carved wooden. When the Raven came describing Viserys landing at Tarth, claiming Robert's mantle and promising Stormlord's restitution, Stannis closed fist around the scroll until wax seal shattered. Duty warred with blood. Dawn found him on battlements, gaze fixed seaward, deciding between ghosts and realm. Viserys, meanwhile, marched inland gathering Stormlanders who missed Robert's brash ease. Khal Barco's riders raided villages for hay and daughters. Viserys handed out trinkets and promises of old glory restored. Yet the Dothraki chafed at cold rains and stone walls. More than once, skirmishes with garrisoned knights ended in blood and confusion. Daenerys tended wounded Stormlander child after one such clash, binding head with her own cloak. The girl whispered, "Queen Dragon," through split lip. Daenerys felt heat coalesce within palm. When she pressed it to the child's cheek, pain eased and fever fled. Word spread among peasants that the Silver Girl healed with fire's breath, and discontent turned worshipful. Ironborn longships, smelling opportunity, raided unprotected coastlines from Flint's Finger to the Arbor. Euron Greyjoy returned from smoking pyres of Valyria with red priests and shadowbinders in tow, eyes patchless, one socket shining blue. He declared himself Crow-Eye, king of the Isles and North Channel, and promised Krakens would strangle both dragon and lion. Balon Greyjoy humored him only until Euron sorceress drew maps in blood, showing secret Hellhorn able to wake drowned gods beneath sea. Thereafter Balon bowed his stern neck, for his dreams of independence glimmered within Euron's madness like gold sunk in storm-dark water. At Castle Black, the royal delegation prepared to ride with ranging party east to the haunted forest. Rhaegar insisted he must witness what threatened. Jaime argued his oath to protect King overrode royal wanderlust. Ned rolled eyes at both and commissioned extra scouts. They set out under grey light, 30 brothers, 20 Northmen, king, queen, babe, and retinue. Snow stung cheeks, trees clawed sky like desperate scribes. 2 days in, tracks appeared, narrow, even, leading deeper. Ghostly quiet blanketed forest, no birds sang. Ranger Borok found deer carcass gutted but unspoiled, heart replaced by blue crystal. Dawn of 3rd day, they reached frozen pond sheeted in perfect ice. Beneath, shapes moved, fish perhaps, though their eyes burned cerulean suns. Lyanna's breath frosted baby's hair, child cooed, unafraid. An hour later, horns blew thrice. Sound that in watch lore means others. A shadow stepped from trees, tall, armored in ice scales, sword misting vapor. It advanced silent. Brothers shook, but held line. Dane unsheathed dawn, blade glimmering starlight. The other paused as if recognizing adversary forged in elder starfire. Jaime lifted shield, knees loose. Rhaegar felt egg crack heat surge in breast. Promise of flame unborn. He handed babe to Ned and stepped forward, harp slung across back like forgotten weight, sword drawn. The other raised its weapon, cold bled across air. Rhaegar's ruby pommel blade met it in ringing clash that sounded like icicles shattering. Frost laced steel, yet Rhaegar pushed, recalling every sacrifice that had built this moment. It parried swift, movement blurred. Only dawn's white flash deflected fatal riposte. Lyanna's arrow, shaft of heart tree wood, tip grazed other's cheek. Frost misted from wound. Creature flinched, staring at arrow as if memory stirred. Behind battle, infant Rhaenys whimpered, sound carried pure as crystal bell. The other's gaze shifted to child, and in that flicker of distraction Dane struck. Dawn bit deep. A wail of wind tore through pines. The other exploded into shards that froze mid-air, then fell like brittle stars. Silence roared louder than war horns. Rangers panted, ash-faced. Rhaegar dropped to knee, sword rimed white. Ned returned babe. Rhaegar clutched her close, tears hot. Fire and ice indeed, he whispered. Jaime clapped gauntlet to shoulder. One verse sung. Many yet remain. They gathered shards, crystals that smoked faint chill, and wrapped them in black cloth. Return march proved harder. Snow thickened. Dead seemed to track them unseen. They lost 3 men to frostbite, 1 to silent arrow that vanished in drift. The wall's looming face felt sanctuary once more. Lord Commander received account gravely. Ravens soared south bearing shards and warning. The war of men pales. Back in King's Landing, Connington met them with urgent tidings. Viserys' host had taken Storm's End after Stannis rode north to council. The castle's great drum tower flew a sigil improvised. 3-headed dragon with stag's crown hammered crudely above. Coastal villages swore under duress. Dothraki patrolled King's Road, spurring panic. Tyrell foot knights marched east in force likely to clash with horse lords. Dornish outriders moved as well to protect marches. Rhaegar convened emergency council. Many clamored to ride south with full might, crush Pretender before he rooted deeper. But Rhaegar thought of frozen pond fish, and realized realm needed spine, unbowed, not headless. "We answer," he declared, "with parity, not pyre." He drafted Raven to Viserys, offer safe parley at Bitterbridge within fortnight, dragon to dragon. If refused, Crown would treat him as foreign invader. He sealed letter with wax, bearing Dragonwolf sigil, adding note for Daenerys. "I have a daughter who dreams of flight." In quiet later, he told Lyanna of crack across Onyx Egg. "It calls," he admitted. "If dragons hatch, fear will hatch with them." Lyanna brushed Ruby Burren's scar at his wrist and answered, "Let us teach fear to kneel." She placed Rhaenys between them, child's tiny fingers curling around harpstring. A single note sounded, clear and bright, neither fiery nor frozen, but harmonious thread binding opposite. They listened, hearts steady, at Kelly Rock, to an open shipment from Qohor. Spearheads forged with smoky glass. Blacksmith claimed they pierced anything. Bone, steel, myth. Tywin ordered 100 more, his mind mapping every front. Dragons, wolves, krakens, flowers, and now ice-made nightmares. He had buried a daughter. He would not bury the realm in chaos that did not bear Lannister crest. Yet as he stared at spear point, glimmering with void-like depth, even Tywin wondered if gold weighed anything against true night. The fortnight hastened. Bitterbridge meadows swarmed with tents. Targaryen crimson encampment, one bank. Viserys black stallion banners opposite. In between stretched open field, where dais of carved weirwood awaited. Rhaegar arrived first, unarmored save plain mail shirt, white cloak worn for truce. "In honor," he said, "of Jaime, who now served Peaceage." Viserys appeared astride smoky charger, silver hair bound by copper circlet. Daenerys rode beside, not child now, but tall, eyes reflecting river like molten amethyst. Negotiations spanned a day. Viserys demanded father's crown, citing birth order. Rhaegar countered with council seat and dragonstone inheritance. Viserys belittled half-wolf niece. Lyanna stepped forward, reminding him Winterfell's blades still sang. Barcos Khalasar pawed earth restlessly until Rhaegar gifted them 20 stallions laden with grain and bronze. Honor kept them leashed. At dusk, Daenerys requested audience, alone with Queen. They walked along bank, where reeds whispered. Daenerys asked of winter. Lyanna told of frostbite stories and how love lit hearths. Daenerys admitted visions of fire-made wings at night. Lyanna showed her daughter's tiny palm encircled by mothers. "Power craves direction," she said. "Without purpose it consumes. Bear up." Daenerys looked across water at brother gesturing wildly, at king watching sky quiet. Something in her decision settled like feather. Next morning, Daenerys knelt before Rhaegar. "Blood of my blood you are," she said. "I would learn, not rage." Viserys sputtered, grabbing Arak, but Dothraki caught his arm. Respect for Khaleesi outweighed foreign prince. Viserys shouted betrayal, lunged. Arak flashed, and heartbeat horse lords dragged him away bound. Rhaegar bowed head heavy with mix of sorrow and relief. He signed decree, naming Daenerys Princess of Dragonstone, Ward of Court. Her Khalasar permitted grazing lands near Blackwater Rush, under oath of peace. Barco accepted, for now, enticed by promise of city markets teeming with exotic wares. Viserys raged in portable cage until illness stilled him. Nights later he vanished. Guards found cage open, chain melted like candle wax. Some blamed assassins. Others whispered darker possibility. Stories sprouted that a man with roaring laughter and patchless eye had offered him crown of molten gold. King's Landing braced for influx. Dothraki quarters erected outside walls. Septons clutched prayers. Merchants drooled at trade. Jaime oversaw garrison drills, teaching spears formations that might blunt horsewaves should treaties fray. Barristan studied dragon egg crack with maesters. Concluding heat pulses matched infant princess's cry cycles. Mystery yet unsolved. Connington rode south, pushing back ironborn raids near Arbor, capturing Pale Priest, who muttered about drowned fires. North, at Winterfell, spring melted courtyard snow, revealing crocuses like fragile soldiers. Sansa Stark, grown quiet scholar, stitched banners bearing intertwined dragon and wolf, while Arya practiced water dancing with Braavosi master sent as goodwill. Bran climbed Broken Tower and dreamed of three-eyed ravens whispering, "The prince is a song, the song needs a tree, the tree needs a seed, and seeds grow stronger in dark." At the Rock, Tywin assembled Lords Minor. He outlined threats, foreign hordes camped near capital, northern power swelling, dragons rumored. He proposed alliance of West, and reach sealed by marriage between Willis Tyrell and Cersei's memories echo. Yet, there was no daughter left. Instead, he considered tripling dowry to buy alliance. But flowers rarely root in gold alone. Olenna's reply arrived, "We choose sun over shroud." Tywin frowned. Perhaps she meant dragon's fire. Summer loomed near solstice when first dragon hatched. It happened in Dragonstone's cavern as Denry's visited egg she once carried like pebble. Lyanna, RHAEGAR, Rhaenys were present, Jaime guarding entrance. Cracks webbed, light flared and a creature slid forth. Scales obsidian streaked with silver, wings translucent as storm cloud edges. It squealed, steam curling from nostrils. Rhaenys laughed. The hatchling turned, eyes reflecting her gray. Heat off its body felt like hearth and midday sun fused. Rhaegar named it Sharaxis, Old Valyrian, for Bridge of Dawn. He placed it on his forearm. It clung gently, fire harmless. Prophecy awakened with single Shura, Daughter. Word traveled faster than ravens. Peasants claimed sunrise blazed brighter. Sailors said, "Sea roared new lullaby." Some kneeled in fear, others sang. High Septon declared dragons assigned 7 tested faithful. Red priests from Lys hailed return of Azor Ahai. In White Harbor, old gods' followers carved dragon eyes into weirwood masks. Uncertain yet intrigued, facing this tremor, Tywin convened secret council. Maesters, alchemists, glass candle dreamers. They spoke of obsidian weaponry, crossbows of ironwood, chains to snare wings. Tywin ordered silent forges. He would not repeat Harrenhal's lessons of dragonfire on stone. Night of hatching, Lyanna dreamed of heart tree sprouts growing along dragon's spine. Dreams shifted to Icefield, where shadow figures kneeled to dragon wolf banner while Aurora crowned sky. She woke, whispering, "Unite, not consume." She told Rhaegar. He kissed brow, promising trust. Council voted to expand Order of the Dawn, recruiting equally from each kingdom. Jaime recommended Brienne of Tarth, a girl rumored to defeat squires thrice her size. Ned sent word of Jorah Mormont's petition for redemption. Dornish offered Ser Desmera Sand, spear spinner swift as desert wind. Diversity became strength. Realm slowly glued itself along new seams. Still, southern storms brewed. Euron's black sails massed near Shield Islands. Crow Eye boasted of Horn to shake foundations of wall. Word reached Rhaegar. He dispatched fleet commanded by Valerion. Dragonback reconnaissance by Shiraxis carrying Daenerys, whose bond grew daily. The young dragon spewed sparks, not flame, but its silhouette against sunset stirred awe. On the frostbite frontier, brothers discovered circle of weirwood limbs arranged around polished ice obelisks. Within pulsated bone-white heart. Maester Aemon wept, recognizing sign older than first men. He wrote, "The enemy shapes symbols to speak. We must learn alphabet of death to answer with light." His raven flew south, wings tired. Autumn chilled air when Stannis arrived at court. Gaunt from roads, mouth set like blade. He knelt before Rhaegar, presenting letters sealed in wax shaped like deer. It was Robert's last unwritten will, discovered beneath tavern floorboard. Words of love for Lyanna. Plea that RHAEGAR protect her should he fall. Tears brightened Lyanna's eyes. She clasped Stannis' forearm. Stannis rose rational yet changed. He accepted post of Master of Ships, for seas required just hand. Ghost brothers found compromise. That winter, small folk celebrated Harvest Festival unmarred by warlords. Dragons swooped overhead, releasing fountains of sparks that illuminated sprawl of city. Children chased embers. Mothers smiled. Soldiers relaxed sinews. In that moment, the realm tasted possibility. But beyond curtain of peace, a boy with dire wolf dreams climbed a weirwood in black of night, gazing south where comets blazed red. Omens some claimed of blood, others of rebirth. And far in drowned halls beneath iron islands, a horn made of dead men's ribs thrummed once, awakening something old. The song played on. Ice was haunting minor chords, fire's bright refrain, mortal drums beating courage between. King and queen watched stars, child asleep, dragon coiled like obsidian ribbon at crib's base. They knew verses ahead would test every promise, yet for one heartbeat the melody held perfect balance, and that was enough to keep night at bay.